The clock is ticking this morning for Attorney General William Barr. Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler is threatening to hold him in contempt of Congress if he doesn't hand over Bob Mueller's unredacted report by Monday. I want to bring in Ben Wittes, editor-in-chief of Lawfare and senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. Rick Tyler is a Republican strategist and co-founder of Foundry Strategies. Robert Costa, national political reporter for The Washington Post and moderator for Washington Week on PBS. Amy Parnes is senior political correspondent at The Hill. So, Amy, they're not just talking about contempt of Congress, but some Democrats are talking about trying to impeach Bill Barr. What's going to happen?
This is the big news of the week, obviously. And I think what you're going to do, I think impeaching Trump was a little too far-sighted. It was a little too pie in the sky, unattainable, if you will. So I think they're going for Barr. They feel like they can get him on this. When you look at 2020 in particular, no one is talking about the Mueller report. They're looking away from this in a way. So I think Democrats, Pelosi especially, she is kind of leading the charge that maybe this is the better way to go. And I think those are the cues that other Democrats are picking up on. Yeah,
and I think one of the things, Robert, that a lot of Democrats believe is that Barr has acted as a personal lawyer to the president, not the Attorney General of the United States. Yet, as an article in your paper points out today, Barr has always backed the power of the executive branch. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that Trump hired him in the first place. So I guess, is that an adequate explanation for why Barr has refused to work with the Democrats? How do you read this whole thing?
It's a nuanced situation because on one level, Democrats believe that the Attorney General is protecting the president. But if you do look at the Attorney General's record, he has supported executive power and asserting executive privilege at various points in the past, both as a private attorney and as Attorney General back for the first President Bush, H.W. Bush. And as he moves forward now, he's going to face tough questions about his version of events. It's not just about executive power and him overseeing the investigation, but once Robert Mueller, the special counsel, gets called to testify, then you will be able to compare the special counsel's version versus the Attorney General's.
Yeah, that is the key. I want to play part of what Jerry Nadler said yesterday after Barr skipped the Judiciary Committee hearing.
The challenge we face is that the President of the United States wants desperately to prevent Congress, a co-equal branch of government, from providing any check whatsoever to even his most reckless decisions. He is trying to render Congress inert as a separate and co-equal branch of government. The challenge we face is that if we don't stand up to him together today, we risk forever losing the power to stand up to any president in the future.
So, Rick, we've got this big constitutional question hanging out there, but does it resonate at all with Republicans?
I don't think so, Chris. Look, I think this is par for the course. There's nothing new here. The fight between the Congress and the executive branch has been going on since the founding of the republic. Congress mostly abrogates its responsibility to the executive branch. That's been true. And now Trump has that power, and the Congress wants to take it away. I think yesterday's making Nadler's faux, if I can call it that, hearing, I think was a little bit of a stunt and a little bit of a clown show. It didn't strike me as serious. I think they could have came up with a compromise where the AG would have come in. And I do think, to Bob's reporting, I think the AG does have a different view that may be different from Democrats of the executive branch of power. I may not agree with that, but again, that's just part of the constitutional balance that we are forever going to live with, and we shouldn't politicize it. And the Democrats are going to have to explain if they want to impeach him, which is not going to happen. Remember, they overwhelmingly confirmed this guy.
And as of right now, Ben, Barr's testimony on Wednesday basically stands as his last word on the Mueller report. We'll see if we hear from him again. You were very careful about giving Barr the benefit of the doubt about how he had handled the Mueller report for a long time. So I was surprised to hear you say, and you wrote about it too, that you called his testimony catastrophic and misleading. And you also wrote, quote, "The effect of these layers of mischaracterization are to rewrite the Mueller report and recast the presidential conduct described in it. The mystery is why Barr is doing this." I know you hear it all the time. I certainly hear the question, why? Why is Barr doing this? Is there a logical explanation, or is it that this is what he believes?
So I think we don't look. I don't can't look into his soul, and I don't know, I don't purport to represent that I know what his motives are. In fact that I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt implied that I made certain assumptions about his likely conduct that I think have not proven to be correct.
Well, but you weren't alone in that. A lot of people who know him well, who worked with him, have been astonished by what they've seen.
Correct. And I think, there is there are a lot of people, sort of DOJ institutionalists, who were, if not excited by the Bill Barr nomination, at least reassured, because he is a capable and very smart lawyer who is a person unlike Matt Whitaker, whom he replaced, of considerable stature. And he has squandered that reputation almost completely, or perhaps completely, in a very short period of time through the way he has spoken publicly in the initial letter, in the press conference releasing the report, and then in this week's hearing about the Mueller report. And I don't say that with any pleasure or glee or sort of partisan anything. I was looking forward to Bill Barr's tenure as a good thing. I think his performance has been indefensible, and I'm, quite shocked by it, as are a lot of other people.
Yeah, and to Benjamin's point, Amy, there's an article in the New Yorker that has the headline, "Trump, Wrecker of Reputations." They cite John Kelly, Rex Tillerson, Reince Priebus, and just this week you have Stephen Moore, who was the nominee to the Fed. He calls the president his biggest ally. Then half an hour later, he gets basically dumped in a tweet, right? Here's a quote from the article. "There are numerous examples of those who seem to abase or degrade themselves in their efforts to curry favor with the president. Such behavior, of course, has long been a bipartisan feature of life in Washington, where access to power can do bad things to the character of those who seek it." But does it explain in any way what we're seeing now with this administration?
No, I mean, it does to a T, because everyone has gone through this. I mean, the thing is, everyone wants to.
Jeff Sessions was carrying around a resignation letter in his pocket every time he went to the White House because he thought he might get fired.
Right. And everyone wants to work at the White House, but this White House, I think it has a certain tone of being, if you are working for the White House, you're complicit with what the president wants. But as someone told me yesterday, even Barr is on shaky ground. He right now is doing a lot of favors for the administration, is doing well, is doing what Trump wants. But he could turn on a dime, the president, and fire him too. So no one knows what the future holds for him.
And it's not obviously just these people. A person, Bob, that a lot of people look at and can't quite fathom is Lindsey Graham, and what seems to be the change she has gone through. I mean, you hear him repeat the mischaracterizations of the Mueller report. He did it even at the start of Wednesday's hearing. He kind of set up the Republican or White House side of this. He was one of several Republicans who openly criticized Trump before he was elected. He called him crazy. He called him unfit for office. How do you explain this evolution, not just of Senator Graham, but a lot of other Republicans who, frankly, were very critical of Donald Trump before he found himself in the White House?
Reporting is often revealing. A few weeks ago, I traveled down to South Carolina to cover Senator Graham at his campaign kickoff for 2020. Who was his guest of honor? Vice President Pence. And talking to voters in that audience, they were very fervent in their enthusiasm for President Trump. And they also said, talking to the Washington Post, that Senator Graham, if he wasn't so aligned with President Trump, could very much face a primary challenger in 2020. Someone who ran against the governor in South Carolina last year has been eyeing a bid against Graham, as have other conservative personalities in South Carolina. So when you try to understand Senator Graham, he has his own motivations, and I'm not a psychologist, but politically speaking, he knows that his state is very much in the Trump camp, and he could face a primary challenge if he isn't embracing President Trump politically. And that's what he's doing, and he looks likely to survive in 2020 under that dynamic.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.